What's up, everybody? On today's show, the attendee list for SEC Media Days is out. Who has the best guest list? We'll run through them, and we'll revisit our conversation with LSU quarterback Garrett Nusmeire. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is over at FanDuel.com. All right, we're less than a week away from SEC Media Days getting underway over there in Atlanta. And finally, yesterday, we got the official announcement on who's going. We didn't know who the attendees were going to be. We knew the coaches going, but we didn't know what players would be coming from what school. So we found that out yesterday. So let's take a look at it as we take a look at the official list. And starting off in alphabetical order, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They are bringing Tim Keenan, Deontay Lawson, and Caden Proctor. Of course, Tim Keenan, big expectations for him his senior year on that defensive line. Deontay Lawson, senior linebacker, should be one of the leaders on this team. And then Caden Proctor, of course, the focal point of that offensive line. So some good leaders there. I thought maybe there would be a chance if perhaps, we could see Ty Simpson, but I get it. They haven't announced a starting quarterback yet. Even despite everything Kalen DeBoer and company said, Ryan Grubb in the spring, that, if we had to play a game today, he would, Ty Simpson would be our starter. But he has not officially been named the starter yet, thus why they are not bringing him to SEC Media Days. But a good group there from Alabama, pretty good for Kalen DeBoer. How about over at Arkansas? Star-studded. They're bringing senior defensive lineman Cam Ball, their senior quarterback Talon Green, and senior linebacker Xavier Sori. That is a good group there for Arkansas. It should be three of their big playmakers this year. Over at Auburn, they are bringing their new quarterback in Jackson Arnold, who, of course, was at Oklahoma just a year ago, and now he is at Auburn. Keldrick Falk, a guy who, on that defensive side, from the minute he stepped on campus at Auburn, was a playmaker, so good to see him going. And then Connor Liu, one of the leaders on that offensive line. So a good group there for Auburn. How about over at Florida? They're going full out. Caleb Banks, big-time D lineman on that defense. Jake Slaughter, one of the top offensive linemen in the country. And then DJ Lagway, their sophomore quarterback, first-year starter at quarterback. And I love it. Billy Napier saying, he's our guy. He's the face of our team. Let's go ahead and bring him. And pretty interesting. A total of 11 quarterbacks will be going to SEC Media Days, including the new projected starters at Georgia, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma. Teams not sending a quarterback to Atlanta. Of course, like we said, Alabama not bringing Ty Simpson. Kentucky not bringing Zach Calzada if he's going to be the starter. Mizzou not bringing Bo Perbula. Interesting. Thought maybe there would be a chance for that. Tennessee not bringing Joey Aguilar. And Texas A&M not bringing Marcel Reed. Thought that was a little bit surprising. Georgia bringing C.J. Allen, linebacker, of course, one of the leaders of that defense. Dalen Everett, one of their best defensive backs. And then Gunnar Stockton, a quarterback who's now the starting quarterback in the absence of Carson Beck. So, why not get Gunnar's feet wet? And, hey, you're the leader of this team. Let's go represent. So, great group there from Georgia. How about Kentucky? They are bringing, and this is maybe not the more household names, right? I mean, in the past they've had, big time, running backs like Benny Snell, Will Levis at quarterback. I mean, they've had some big names. Alex Safari Jr. at linebacker, Jordan Lovett at DB, and Josh Caddis tight end. So a good group there for Kentucky, but maybe not like the biggest headliners, that people will be running to go grab. LSU bringing quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, not a surprise there. Linebacker Whit Weeks, stud tackler, one of the leading tacklers in the SEC last year. And how about Chris Hilton? They're going with the senior wide receiver. I thought maybe Aaron Anderson would have a chance because he's been so good for LSU the last couple of years. Chris Hilton battled the injury last year, came back towards the end of the year, had an impact, but they're leaning on him to be a big face of this team and big time contributor. So interesting that LSU would go with Chris Hilton and no Harold Perkins. Perkins went last year. He will not be in this group. Over at Ole Miss, they're bringing their quarterback, Austin Simmons. Again, the new face replacing Jackson Dart. Wide receiver Caden Lee, heading into his junior year, expected to take a major leap forward. And then at linebacker, TJ Doddy. I thought Centurion Perkins maybe would have a chance, but they're going with Doddy at linebacker for Ole Miss. Mississippi State, they're going to go with their quarterback, Blake Shapen. He's the guy, remember, got hurt last year. Michael Van Buren came in, stepped in for him, but it's Blake Shapen's team again. It's his time to shine in this Jeff Lebby offense and this system. So Blake Shapen coming as the graduate quarterback. Then you've got Isaac Smith, safety, and Brennan Thompson, wide receiver. So maybe some names there that people need to become more familiar with out of Starkville. Over at Mizzou, again, thought maybe Bo Perbula would be on this list, but they're going to bring Dalen Carnell at safety, Connor Tolleson at center, one of the top centers in the country, and then Zion Young at defensive end, who everybody's expecting big things out of, could be a big-time sack artist this year. Over at Oklahoma, good group. They bring in John Mateer, of course, the Washington State transfer quarterback, coming in, everybody expecting big things out of. Robert Spears Jennings at DB, and then Art Mason Thomas, again, another big-time disruptor there on the defensive line. So a solid group there from Oklahoma. South Carolina bringing a really strong group. You start with Nick Barrett at defensive tackle. Then you got DQ Smith at DB. And then Lenore Sellers, who was the all-everything redshirt freshman last year that finished the season so strong, beating Clemson, beating A&M, really finishing strong. And then, heading into his redshirt sophomore season, a lot of high expectations for Lenore Sellers. So glad he's coming. Tennessee, this is, I thought maybe a chance for them to bring one of the running backs, Deshaun Bishop, maybe, Matthews, wide receiver, but they're going Arian Carter at linebacker, Miles Kitzelman at tight end, and Bryson Eason at defensive tackle. So, maybe Josh Heupel wanting to go with some guys that are just going to not disrupt the apple cart, just kind of safe picks, put it that way. So, interesting group there for the Vols. How about Texas? I mean, you want to talk star power. It's Michael Taft, their senior DB, who was so awesome, part of that playoff team last year. Anthony Hill, heading in his junior year, stud at linebacker. And then Archmania. It's Arch Manning coming for Texas. I love Steve Sarkisian not shying away from it. Everyone wants to talk to Arch. Let's let the hype build even more. Let's bring Arch to SEC Media Day. So I absolutely love that. Will be the most in-demand interview of anybody at SEC Media Days. So, and again, I'm having to talk to Arch a couple of times the last couple of years. He's so mature for his age, just, knows how to handle the media. He's been coached so well by whether it's Cooper, Eli, Archie, whoever has been helping coach him. Arch is he's awesome. So he should thrive next week at Media Days. Round out the group, Texas A&M will be their DB Will Lee, offensive lineman Armaj Reed Adams, and linebacker Torian York, who's been a tackling machine since his freshman year there at A&M. So good group there. Again, just a little surprise, Marcel Reed not going. And then, with the stud running backs, how do you choose one? Do you bring Le'Veon Moss? Do you bring Amari Daniels? Do you bring Ruben Owens? I mean, to me, I think Mike Elko probably made the right call here because, maybe he could have just brought 3 running backs. That would have been a fun group for A&M, but nonetheless, good picks there. And then Vanderbilt, Randon Fontenette, their defensive safety / outside linebacker, Martel Height, the DB, and Diego Pavia, rounding out the star studded names at SEC Media Days next week. So a good crop of players that are going to be there. Again, the biggest names, Arch Manning, DJ Lagway. To me, CJ Allen and Dalen Everett are huge at Georgia. A lot of the new quarterbacks, Austin Simmons and, a lot of the guys that John Mateer, guys that have never been here before. So really like this list of guys coming to SEC Media Days, and going to be fun to see what they say and see if anybody makes any headlines. Real quick, Brett Yormark and the Big 12 media days. They got underway yesterday over in the Dallas area, and Brett Yormark talking about the playoff model. He said he believes the 5+11 seeding model proposed by the SEC and others is the best for the future of the sport. In that model, it would award automatic bids to the 5 highest ranked conference champions and then 11 at-large seeds. And he said, look, we do not need a professional model because we are not the NFL. We are college football. We must act like it. We must protect what makes it special. He said, I'm doubling down on 5-11 model. He said he expects ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips to do the same. And he said, I'm confident we will get to the right place. I'm confident we will get to the 5+11 model. So strong comments there. Craig Sankey, ball is in your court. What say you next week at SEC Media Days? That one will be interesting. A couple other notes here. An Auburn defender in a little bit of hot water after a recent traffic stop. According to AL.com, linebacker D'Angelo Barber, arrested on drug and possession charges in Dadeville, was arrested during a Monday morning traffic stop. In the press release, officials claim police developed probable cause to search his vehicle. At the time, officers located a large amount of marijuana along with a pistol and a large amount of cash. So Barber, be interested to see what Hugh Freeze has to say about him next week at Media Days. And then lastly, Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame, a pair of Wildcat greats will be going into their state's Sports Hall of Fame. Tayshaun Prince on the basketball side of things and Randall Cobb on the full things. It was announced they will be members of the Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame class of 2025. So congrats to those guys. All right, here on Locked On SEC, figured we'd take a look back on a couple of our interviews from last year at SEC Media Days, with it being just a week away. Notably, we will talk with, it's a conversation with Garrett Nusmeire, the LSU quarterback, who is back in his starting position at LSU. And we'll also, a little bit later, revisit our conversation with Luke Doty, who is back at South Carolina, and not a ton of people talking about him. I'm curious what role he will play this year at South Carolina. So we'll revisit those interviews coming up next here on Locked On SEC. Hey, but first, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you are all about baseball, under the lights, golf, on the green, high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel, they're the place that will make every game even more exciting. And look, if you're watching the game, you're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are out on the beach getting sunburned. Look, I've been using FanDuel to track a lot of different matchups, particularly baseball. MLB, it's the most fun to get in on because you got multiple games happening every day. But at FanDuel, easy to use, fast to pay out, even will make even regular season games feel like must-watch events. You can get in on same-game parlays. You can do whatever you want at FanDuel. They make it so much fun. Of course, a lot of college football action up there already. A lot of those week 1 games in the SEC, those marquee matchups already up there if with lines on them. And, of course, win totals for the season up there, Heisman odds, it's all right there for you at FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, if you've never signed up before, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com today to get started. That is at FanDuel.com. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And I figured it'd be fun to kind of look back on some of our interviews from last year at SEC Media Days with some of the guys that are back in the SEC. And we're hoping next week to sit down once again with Garrett Nusmeire, LSU quarterback, but we caught up with him last summer, so figured we'd bring you some of that conversation, revisit it here. Here was our sit-down conversation with LSU quarterback Garrett Nusmeire prior to the 2025 season. Here was Nuss. Rolling along from SEC Media Days, and we'll be catching up with LSU Day here, catching up with a couple of LSU Tigers, catching up with LSU quarterback Garrett Nusmeire. Welcome in, man, making the trip out here to Media Days. What's this all like?
Yeah, I appreciate y'all for having me. It's an unbelievable experience, just getting to represent LSU and what that means, to me and also to my other teammates that are here. It's a really cool experience, and we're all very thankful.
It's got to be crazy for you. I mean, you've sat, you waited your turn, you've waited your opportunity. Now it's your chance to kind of show what you can do. What's the journey kind of been like these last couple years, particularly watching Jaden do special things, winning a Heisman and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's been a process, and I've had to put a lot of faith into God and to trust in Him and His plan for me. And then, getting to watch Jaden and learn different things from him. Obviously, if I have, nearly the amount of success that he was able to have last year, I'll be pretty happy. One of the things, for me, obviously our skill set is very different. So getting to learn, how to interact with my teammates off the field from him, or how to lead, watching him in the building and the way that he interacted day to day. I got to learn a lot from Jaden, and, I'm a big fan of his, and I'm excited for him at the next level.
You guys lose a couple of big-time receivers, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. go on to be first-round picks, but it feels like some of those guys that you were maybe running on second team with, Chris Hilton and some other guys, like you were able to develop that chemistry. So it's kind of like while you move up the depth chart, they move up the depth chart. What's that kind of been like? Because, man, I mean, the spring game, it looked like you guys been playing football for years together.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Getting to experience those different situations with all those guys. Me and Chris Hilton came in together. And there are a couple other guys that I'll be playing with this year that we came in the same class, and, we got to spend a lot of time together. Like you said, from the bottom of the depth chart freshman year, slowly building our ways up to, now starting. And, there's a lot of time there, a lot of time spent there, a lot of relationships that have been built, between me and my teammates, just being around each other at all times as much as possible. And I think that's the biggest part, everything that happens on the field, it all starts with the relationships, that you guys have off the field. So,
I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but the expectations of playing quarterback now at LSU, I mean, there were many years it was kind of we'll see. But, I mean, you get Joe through there, you get Jaden through there. I mean, now there's an expectation. You got to put up numbers. You got to make things happen at that position.
Yeah, pressure is a privilege, and obviously we've had very successful quarterbacks here lately. And, I understand that there's a responsibility and an expectation, but, I try not to think too much about it. I mean, there's an expectation just being the starting quarterback at LSU in general, of a standard that you have to hold yourself to and who you represent. And so, I'm very blessed. I thank God every morning when I wake up that this is the life I get to live right now. And I'm hopefully, I am where I'm supposed to be at. And so I'm very thankful and I'm very excited to get to, go out there and compete.
Sometimes you lose an offense coordinator. It's a little tough. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but at least you guys got the full bowl prep to go through with Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton. And again, those guys have been there. It's not like you brought in somebody from the outside. So how much does that continuity kind of help? While yes, the label is new OC, it's guys who've been there.
Yeah, Coach Sloan and I, we have a really, really good relationship. And, he's been very honest and very hard on me since the moment that, he got there. And so, just getting to work with him, he set a plan out for me early on what I needed to improve on. And he's done an unbelievable job of holding me to it and helping me, find ways to improve every parts of my game. And so, as he's taken over, it's only, just gotten better. Just being able to have those conversations with him between a coordinator and a quarterback and, also a quarterback coach. But you have that relationship there that's been there for 3 years now. And so, he can always be honest with me. And, I feel like, we're at a point where I can be honest with him and tell him how I feel about certain situations. And he's going to give me honest feedback. And so, if you've been to an LSU practice, you've heard Coach Sloan, rip into me a couple times. So I really enjoy our relationship and I really appreciate it. And I think he's very, very good at what he does. And I think we're going to be very, very successful because of him.
I feel like your dad may have told them, hey, rip into him.
Yeah. They have some conversations about how they're going to discipline me, it feels like. So that's how my dad was on me when I was a kid. So I think they bond over that almost.
It's crazy, too. I mean, I have a dad who played the position. I mean, it's got to help so much because he does have that playing experience that he can help you with. But also in the same aspect, he's a little bit harder because he knows what it takes and he knows where you got to get.
Right. Yeah. No, it's been unreal. I really, really appreciate the relationship that I have with my dad. He was able to accomplish everything that I dream of accomplishing. So, just getting feedback from him and, he's kind of helped me see the path and see the way at certain times. And, if I ever feel lost, just a long conversation with him will fix it and he'll get me back in the right headspace. So, I'm extremely grateful for the relationship that I've built with my dad over the years and, how close we are. And, he's very honest with me, and he always helps me, find the truth in every situation. So,
what was that like for you growing up in the household you did where, I mean, obviously your dad knows the position, he played it, but then also, too, you see the coaching side of it as well. And for all the moving around and everything you guys had to do as a kid.
Yeah, I'm extremely blessed of the life that I got to live as a young kid. I moved 12 different times. My dad was a part of, extremely top programs while I was growing up, Alabama, Florida, Michigan, an offensive coordinator at those places. And, I was a 12-year-old kid running around these campuses, and running around these practice fields, watching players like Jake Locker and A.J. McCarron, Drew Stanton. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so, I idolized these guys when I was a kid. And I idolized my dad and how he was interacting with them. So, it's always been a dream of mine just to be in the shoes that I'm in now. So I'm extremely blessed, and being able to see it as a kid, it kind of prepared me, I guess you could say, for this moment now.
What'd you see out of the defense? Obviously, I think everybody knows it was a little bit not up to the LSU standard for a good bit of last year, but a whole new staff. And Coach Kelly sends a message bringing in all new guys. But, I mean, dudes from Blake Baker as the DC to Bo Davis on the D-line, Kevin Peoples, Corey Raymond. I mean, these are all big-time hires. What have you seen, at least just tangible differences so far in that defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an extremely talented group. And, I think these coaches that Coach was able to bring in are all very, very good. Coach Baker's system is unreal. Challenged me every single day of spring ball. It tests me every single day, even now into the summer. And it's something to be honest, it's hard to play against. And you have to always be aware of different things. And then when you look at the talent that we have outside of that, we have guys like Perk, Greg Penn, and the guys that have came in at safety, and Major Burns, and the corners that have continued to develop and work. We've got a great group, a great scheme, a great system. And, I think that, I'm very excited to see what they're going to be able to accomplish, and hopefully, quiet a lot of haters.
You like wearing that red no contact jersey when Perk is closing it on,
ain't
right?
No doubt about that. That red, it feels nice wearing that red when I see Perk. So.
Talking with Garrett Nusmeire, LSU quarterback. So as you prepare for the season, what are some things you start to do? I mean, obviously, you can only do so much on the practice field. Is it really just kind of taking care of your body, adding muscle when you need to, eating healthy, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into playing quarterback or playing any position, really, in the SEC. Obviously, you have to keep your body in top-tier shape because, this is the closest thing you can get to the NFL. I mean, this is the SEC. Guys are big. Guys are fast. Guys are physical. It's very, very talented players. And so, when you get hit, it hurts, to be real, it hurts,
yeah.
And when you take constant hits, you got to make sure that you prepare yourself in the off season and keep your body healthy enough so that you can take those hits over and over again.
When Garrett Nusmeire is not playing football, what are you doing?
I've been working on my golf game a little bit.
Okay.
My golf game this summer has been not nearly as good as it was last summer, but I'm pretty much given up because I can't play basically from September to January. So
right.
It's a February to August type of thing, and these past couple months have not been great for me.
Short game, long game. What's the strength?
So last year, my long game and my irons were amazing, and I could not putt or could not chip. And this summer, all of a sudden, I can chip from anywhere and I can putt from anywhere, but I can't hit a fairway to save my life. So I don't know what happened, but hopefully we put it together next summer. Hopefully it all comes together. So
got to figure that part out.
Yeah, I got to put 2 and 2. We'll see.
He is Garrett Nusmeire, LSU quarterback. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Really
appreciate y'all for having me. Thank you.
More from SEC Media Days after this. That, again, our interview with Garrett Nusmeire at SEC Media Days last year. He will be at SEC Media Days again this year, hoping that we have a chance to talk with Nuss again. And a guy that expectations raised, right? This LSU team, a lot of people hoping that they are a playoff team this year. And Nuss is a guy who's getting his name thrown around in Heisman consideration. So, again, Garrett Nusmeire at LSU, huge expectations in 2025. And hopefully we get a chance to talk with him about that next week at SEC Media Days. All right, we're going to return here on Locked On SEC, revisit our conversation with a guy who's a former quarterback at South Carolina, played some tight end. What role will he play in 2025? We'll talk about that coming up next. All right, we're along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Revisiting a couple of our interviews from last year at SEC Media Days, and a guy who's back at South Carolina for his, I believe, 6th season now, is a guy that's a former quarterback, and that is Luke Doty. He was a freshman at South Carolina during COVID in 2020. That was back when the SEC was just 14 teams. The transfer portal was nowhere near what it is now. NIL wasn't legal. I mean, it's a lot of different things that were going on there when Luke Doty first came into the conference. But he talked about, saying coming back this year, he wants to be a leader. NIL is a big part of him sticking around college because, he frankly doesn't think he's going to be, making a ton of money. It'd be a big NFL star. He could. We'll see what happens. But wanted to revisit a little bit of our conversation with Luke Doty at South Carolina, quarterback / tight end / do-it-all guy. Here was Luke Doty.
Pleasure now to be catching up with a South Carolina Gamecock. He is Luke Doty, the utility man, the man, just do it all, everything for South Carolina. That's right, man. You enjoying this?
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
It's awesome to catch up with you. Talk a little bit about your journey, man, as quarterback to pass catcher. I mean, this has been it's been a crazy evolution for you.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has been a crazy journey, but I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything at all. Just coming in as a quarterback, I went to wide receiver my freshman year, played a lot there. Went back to quarterback at the last 3 games of the season. Came back as a quarterback in 21. Got hurt, and then obviously quarterback behind Spencer the next 2 years, and then last year playing a lot of wide receiver. So I mean, it's just been a wild journey, but thankfully I've been able to stay healthy throughout the most of it. Aside from the injury in 21, but yeah, it's been wild, man. But the main thing is just I'm glad to still be here. I love South Carolina, and like I said, I wouldn't change anything for the world.
I've described it as, I mean, they could line you up at receiver, tight end, H-back. I mean, they can kind of move you all around. What was it like going through the spring and just kind of getting used to and acclimated to an offense where you could play anywhere?
I think it was just about getting a lot of reps. I'm a guy that learns through doing, learns from seeing it and being able to feel it. So just being able to get a lot of reps, not only at wide receiver, but special teams as well. It was big for me just because I need those reps, and I need to be able to feel what it feels like to do the different techniques and stuff like that. So it was really good for me, and I think I got a lot out of it, and I definitely got a lot better.
Just letting teams know, beware at the goal line. There might be a Luke Doty wide receiver pass. That might be in the playbook. I'm just going to assume. Talk about Lenoris. What did you see from him in the spring? Obviously, fans are really excited to see what he could do, dual threat.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely stepping into the role, his role as a leader on the team. You see him at workouts, practices, walkthroughs. He's leading those things, and he's getting guys in the right place, getting them lined up, and really showing them, the ropes of, this is how we're going to do things on offense. So, follow my lead. And, I can't say enough good things about him. He was a guy when he first came in, he put his head down and he worked, learned the offense at an incredible speed. He's got an encyclopedia for a brain. He's extremely smart. So, obviously he's the guy right now, and it's still a competition, but he's done a great job so far, and he's going to continue to do a great job.
All right, thanks again to Luke Doty. That was our conversation last year at SEC Media Days. As you look at the depth chart right now at South Carolina, Luke Doty's listed as the 4th-string quarterback. You've got Lenore Sellers as a starter, Aaron Nolan, the transfer through the portal, coming in as the backup, Cutter Woods, who's the incoming true freshman, and Luke Doty kind of slotted in as the 4th-string quarterback. They don't even have him listed at tight end. You got Jordan Dingle coming in through the portal. You got Michael Smith, Brady Hunt, Maurice Brown. Where does Luke Doty fit in here? So, again, what role does he play? Does he even see any action this year? That's going to be very fascinating to see, but appreciate Luke Doty taking some time, and he will not be among those attendees again this year at SEC Media Days. So we'll see what role he plays. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your second listen, you can check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has got you covered with all the latest rumors and recruiting news. Be the most informed fan of the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We will talk to you guys tomorrow.